Hello everyone, back again. Another video. Traps in the Sicilian continuing. Let's get started. So by now we all know what the Sicilian looks like. Alright, if you've been following these videos. Sorry there's a lot of Sicilian traps, but there's a lot of the Sicilian is one labyrinth of an opening. So just bear with me. We will be switching it up shortly to another opening. Alright. A6. This is like an offbeat variation of the Sicilian. B4, look at that. Now we have some kind of wing gambit. And the purpose of this is the same as like in the other lines, the Evans gambit, where the B pawn is gambited. And the purpose is to take control of the central squares. That's the purpose of B4 a lot. And here it's called the wing gambit. Alright, let me just show you the again for the new players what the Evans gambit looks like. I don't like to just use terms and then people are like, what's that? You know, let's see. This is known as the Evans gambit. The idea is to distract this bishop away. So after bishop takes b4, c3, gaining time against the bishop. And there's several moves that can be done, but let's just stick with the traditional line. Bishop a5 and d4. And of course it gets very complicated, but the idea is to set up the broad center and of course create open lines for the pieces, because black is down material and white is down material, excuse me. And the idea of any gambit, when you give up a pawn, you have to have some kind of compensation in another area, whether it's time, which would be development, or you get some type of positional advantage, whether you cramp the opponent's position or causes pieces to have to go to bad squares. You always have to have compensation. In other words, you just don't want to be down material, because material is just one aspect of chess. There's different. There's time, space. There's different factors you want to weigh up. Okay, so that'll just give you a brief idea of what that's about, with that B pawn being given up so freely. Alright, so e4, c5, a6. Like I said, this is a little offbeat Sicilian. A lot of times you'll transpose. But here, b4 is played. C takes b4. d4, just like I said. Knight f6. Just simply attacking the pawn and provoking the pawn forward, because now these two pawns aren't as strong as they are when they're both on the same file together. Because when they're together on the same file, these two squares in front of them are under white's control and cannot be occupied by any black piece. However, soon as the pawn is provoked forward, or one of the pawn duo is pushed forward, now this square and this square in this position become available to black's pieces. So therefore, knight d5 is played. Knight g5, e6, bishop d3, and now we see that white has gained some space over here on the king side rather. And usually is a little rule of thumb to go by, is that when whatever direction that pawn chain is pointing in, that's usually where you're gonna have the best opportunity for attacking. In this case, white has more space on the king side, so therefore it's feasible for him to start his attack over there. So in this particular game, black decided to kick the annoying knight out. However, the knight doesn't really have to move, because after queen h5, this rook would be unprotected in the event of the capture by this pawn on g5. Additionally, there's a threat here of checkmate delivered by the queen on f7. So now the question is, after queen e7, what would you do here? And you can pause the video or not pause the video. I'll give you the answer, but if you can see what white should do, it's great. All right, knight takes f7, and this is a typical pin combination, and it usually occurs with the king involved, but sometimes it can be with the queen or other heavy pieces like the rooks, stuff like that. It's basically usually when a piece of lesser value is attacking a higher value piece, and that piece of higher value cannot move because there's another piece behind it, like a king or a rook or a queen. That's very important. So after knight takes f7, of course, the rules of chess won't permit us to play king takes f7 because the queen is there. And additionally, white is attacking the rook also. And even if the king wanted to, he couldn't move to d8 because the knight has influence there. That's just how the knight moves. So after queen takes f7, this bishop goes right here to g6. And this is a pin. Why is it a pin? Because according to the rules of chess, this queen cannot move because the king is right behind it. So the moral of the story is be careful when making pawn moves like that. Like h6. Make sure there's some substance behind it, or it's an actual threat to capture. What happened here was it was basically a meaningless threat, a bluff basically, which just amounted to a waste of time. Probably a better move, just for analyzing sake, is developing a piece with a threat, like knight c6, threatening the pawn right here. Then let's just use our imagination. If queen h5 threatening mate, then you play a move with some bite to it, g6, hitting the queen, and then uh, the queen has to move. Then after, say, queen f3, wanting to take that pawn, and now we play queen e7. And then here, black is just better. The threat is still here, so therefore queen g4 or something like that would have to be played. And then bishop g7 and so on. And black is just better. White doesn't really have any compensation for his material deficit. If he tries knight f3, knight e4 to go here, boom, f4, f5, which forces the deterioration of his own center. And this is all forced, and this is great for black. this pawn is going to fall. All right, let's look at our next one. E4, C5. This is a short but sweet combination. Knight of 3, G6, Bishop B5, Bishop G7. And what do you think about this move? D3. Now, by now you should be able to see this right away. First of all, what do we check first? Unprotected pieces. That's the first thing that should just, even without me putting this color code on the bishop, it should just pop up like that in your mind. As soon as you see a piece unprotected, and then after that, right after you acknowledge the unprotected nature of the piece, then you should see weak squares. You should see the opportunity, the dark squares. So, Queen A5 check, Knight C3, and the phone ring. Hold on. All right, so after Knight C3, protecting the knight, protecting the bishop on B5, we have a situation where the bishop on B5 is defended by one piece. That piece is pinned by the queen, but the problem is we can't just play queen takes B5 right now, because once the queen moves to B5, the pin is no longer valid, and therefore disappointment occurs after knight takes B5. However, there's a concept I spoke about in the other videos of removing the defender. You get rid of them. So bishop takes C3, check, B takes C3, and queen takes B5. So we see those elements occur often. First, you have an unprotected piece. You don't really want to leave pieces unprotected. Sometimes you have to in the position, but you want to keep an eye on that and get it protected as soon as possible. And if you're attacking, that's the first thing you're looking for is pieces that are unprotected. And then, like, I know when I'm playing, I look for unprotected pieces, and then the second thing I look for is pieces that are only protected by one piece. Because a lot of times you can remove that defender, you can get rid of them, you can distract them, make a pawn sacrifice or something like that. So, matter of fact, I look at it almost the same: a piece that's unprotected and a piece that's only defended by one piece. Because a lot of times you could just get rid of it, just like in this situation. Normally you wouldn't want to part with this beautiful bishop, but you have a chance to go up in material and have a better position than white has a slight lead in development, but that is not enough compensation for an entire piece. So, all right. Next one, E4, C5, Knight of 3, G6, C3. What's the purpose of C3? Just to build up a strong pawn center, two pawn center. But the downside of that is it takes away natural square for the knight, and it's really not a developing move. Okay, B6, D4, Bishop B7, again D5, blunting the action of the bishop here, and D5 is not a bad move here. Um, Sorry about that. Because what happens with this bishop committing so early is that it's easy to play against this piece. That's the problem with committing your pieces so early, or when you see people play moves like G3 or G6 right out of the opening, is that before you really set up, you can play against those pieces because they already giving you information as to what their setup is going to be. So here D5 is a good move. It in exchange for a tempo, you're losing the tempo, but you're gonna gain that tempo back because eventually this bishop is gonna on B7 is gonna have to go somewhere where it actually can participate in the game, and it's hard to see, especially with this pawn on C5 already, how black is gonna destroy the center. For instance, he would love to play like moves like E6, but white will have C4. So the way it looks is that this bishop is going to be shut out. So you're going to gain that tempo back. This is, bishop will have to probably come back here eventually, or try to come out here, something like that. So when you see like early committal moves like that, if you find a way to shut the piece out of the game, you can do it. All right, D5. I'm sorry, hold on. D4 bishop B7. So like I said, D5 is a good move, but in the game, bishop C4 is played. And remember, we spoke about the ideas on this diagonal and how a lot of times E6 will be played. And the idea with this move is that, because you can see, some of you can see that this pawn is hanging. The idea here is if bishop takes E4, knight G5 with the double attack here and on the bishop. And then let's say D5, for example, right, blocking the bishop. The bishop will go here, check, and after knight D7, D takes, and after B takes, then F3, and then this bishop gets in some hot water here. So let's say, for instance, he goes back there, and queen D5. Then again, you have this threat, and then let's say a knight H6, for instance. And let's say he tries to like E6. Then it's hard to defend after queen takes. This rook on A8 will fall. Okay, so let's go back. And so that's why the E pawn was not taken. Instead, D5. And after E takes D5, bishop takes D5, queen A4 check. Now here's a critical moment right here. What should black do? Should black play knight D7? No, because it simply dropped this bishop. This knight C6 can be played, and black is still in a bad position after bishop B5 and rook C8, and he'll probably lose his pawn. That's probably his best option. Here, however, black try to get fancy and play bishop C6, which looks like a natural move. Right? Attacking the queen, telling the queen to get out of here. So what should white do? Here's an idea. What about queen B3? Queen b3, attacking this. It's a good move. It's playable. Right, e6, knight e5, and white has a promising position. So if he came up with that move, that's respectable. But here is the killer move. It's knight e5 with two threats. One is against the bishop. The other is mate on f7. And this is the kind of theme you have to remember, especially against fianchetto setups, because this is a weak structure by nature. And what makes it strong is with this bishop here on g7. But there's a lot of combinations that are played against this structure. And here you can see the mate threat, because the knight has this square covered. And so if you place the bishop here, you can see the checkmate. Therefore, the queen on a4 is immune to capture. Let's get rid of some of the graphics here. So after bishop c6, knight e5. And there's really nothing that black can do about it. So for example, if he tries queen c7, then you just play knight takes c6. I was thinking bishop b5 first, but no, you just play d5, enjoying the exploiting the pin. And then if queen takes, then you throw the bishop in there again. All right, I like that little one. All right, last one. e4, c5, knight f3, e6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, a6. Now this is looking like normal Sicilian territory. We have this like a Khan variation, and sometimes we'll transpose into a Taimanov after the knight comes out here. Here's an oddball move by white. What do you think about that? Now, the first thing that comes to my mind is I see if I had a little more time here, this would be a fork, right? But right now, it seems that I can't play that, because if I play e5 right away, then he'll just capture with the bishop. I'll lose a pawn. But again, if you've been following along, you're going to look at pieces again that are unprotected, right? The bishop is unprotected right now. And what did I say after that? We want to look at pieces that are only protected by one piece, because those are vulnerable also. And that will be the knight here. So that's a feature in the position. Remember, we're looking for combinations, and what's the definition of combination? Is we're actually combining elements or features of the position. So we have these features right here, but we need some more features in order for the combination to work. So besides these pieces that are scantily protected, right, and vulnerable to a fork, right, that's one feature. That's really the main idea, is the fork. But we need another idea in order to make a combination, because we need to combine more than one element. The other element is always available in Sicilian is the weakness of the dark squares of white. The dark squares are wide open. Once we understand that, we combine the exposed nature of the king on the dark squares. That's one feature. and combine that with the aspect of the fork here on E5, and that gives us our answer. And now, my friends, we have made a combination. It's just like alchemy. We take elements and we put them together and we make something new. So something that did not exist before or did not seem possible now becomes possible. And that is the magic of combining or combinations, my friends. So, what's the answer after bishop f4? Question mark. E5. Bishop takes e5 is forced, and now you see it real easy. Queen a5. We have combined, my friends, and just one apiece. Handshake, and now you can leave the tournament hall early and go watch other people's games, go play some blitz in the Skittles room, or you could go have a snack somewhere. Enjoy your favorite beverage while the other players have to sit at the tournament table and grind it out for another hour or 2 hours. Just because you knew how to combine and you saw the opportunity on the chessboard. So after Queen a5, you simply pick up the bishop on e5. Alright, that is it for now. And we will be picking up on our next video. Please subscribe and like and comment and make suggestions if you have any type of miniatures or um, openings, traps that you want to see, because I'm covering everything. I'm revealing everything about chess that I know freely, and because I love the game and I love talking about it. So, like I said, please like and subscribe and all of that, and check out some of the other videos. I have miniatures on the Pirk, Scandinavian, and miniatures are basically like traps also. They're just games under 30 moves in my book. Um, but like I said, right now we're focusing on traps, and I'll see you on the next video.